competition committee officially voted that the playoffs will be expanded if the schedule is significantly impacted. Now, that is a very broad term, significantly impacted. We'll get into that in a second. But what this means, so they have proposed it before. Obviously, they talked about it during the offseason a little bit in terms of expanding the playoffs. They expanded it, 7 teams, 14 teams total, 7 in each conference. So you still, instead of having your top 2 seeds with the bye, now it's just the number 1 seed gets the bye or else play. So it was like, all right, that's good. But now what they've officially amended, and now, I mean, they've already agreed upon it. It's just when they want to implement it, is they're going to bump it up from 14 teams to 16 teams, meaning that there would not be a first round bye. And they haven't confirmed it yet, but they have been flirting with the idea of more of a bracket style for the playoffs in terms of how you proceed. So typically your top 4 seeds are the guys who win the divisions. And then from there you go from, just your record wise wild card rankings. And then from there, if you're a 1 or 2 seed, you're playing, if you're the 1 seed, you're going to play the lowest of the seeds from that wild card round. What they're talking about and leaning towards right now is that second round is no longer you just play the lowest seed if you're a top seed. It's more bracket style. So if you were a 1 seed versus 8 seed, but under your bracket it's a 5 seed or something like that.
4 and 5.
Right,
so I guess that wouldn't be that bad. It would be the 2 and the 7 that could throw things
but
off.
that's what I'm
or
saying.
even the 1 and the 8.
So and we've seen that. I mean, we saw everybody remembers the Beast Quake, right? That happened in Seattle. Them guys were 7-9 playing the Saints team that should have been hosting the game. But after that game happened, the Seahawks had to go and play a top seed. Whereas what they're proposing right now is that wouldn't be the scenario. They would just go play whoever was on the other side of that bracket.
Why are they changing this like that?
Dollars, baby.
Wait, what does that have to do with dollars?
It's more money, man, in terms of the extra game.
No, the extra game, but I'm talking about the seeding and the bracketing.
Well, so the thing is, they haven't talked in terms of why they were thinking that. But I know for the reason why they want to do this and why they even amended it was because it's more money in playoffs than it is for regular season games. Now, the issue that I have, and probably, just fans in general, is now you're looking at a far more watered down product, especially later in the year, because that 1 seed doesn't matter anymore.
Who's the 8 seed getting in? I mean, even the 7 seed, we've talked about this. It's borderline questionable.
Right now, it could be a 8-8 team. It could be a 7-9 team. Could flirt around and have a 6-10 team, especially how the NFC East is going right now, just with their standpoint. So you have a lot that could happen with those last 2 teams in both conferences, man. So that's why for them, they can make so much more money in a game like that versus having just 2 regular teams playing in a 1:00 game. Like they're not going to have the eyes on them. So that's the thought process. I don't know why they want to change the format of it in terms of as you progress. They haven't given us enough information for that, but that's their thought process right now. And like I said, in terms of it making the product watered down, if you're the Steelers and we already have had this bye week move till it was early in the year, but now that 1 seed isn't important anymore, newsflash, the undefeated season isn't more important than winning the Super Bowl. Winning the Super Bowl is always goal number 1, man.
You want the bye. That helps.
Yeah, so if you're not going to get the bye, then what do? Late in the season, you say, well, we're going to pseudo create our own bye. We'll sit these guys in week 16. We'll sit this group in week 17. And then when it's playoff times, we got our guys ready to go. You can see that. And then also when you talk about some of these teams that have had to traditionally battle to get into the playoffs, right? Those last two weeks of the season, it's like, man, this team has to beat that team. This has to happen. So everybody's competing crazy hard. If you already know, though, with some of these teams that are going to be 8-8, 7-9-8, you're already clinching that 7 seed. You're clinching that 8 seed already. You're not even going to be pushing that much harder for that either. And to me, I just feel like as fans of the game, you lose out because then it becomes more of like how basketball, NBA, MLB, and NHL are, where every game doesn't matter now. That was the thing with NFL that made it so just special. It's like, man,
I know. I think we talked about
matters.
this. I wasn't the biggest fan of them adding 7th, from what I can remember.
I agree. We both were,
because from one standpoint, you're like, all right, you get the extra game. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fun, but at the same time, there is a magic to the NFL. 16 games, 6 teams. The scarcity definitely makes it where you're on pins and needles.
It's more exclusive, man. You don't have to worry about kind of like in the NBA where a Hawks team would slip into the playoffs and you're like, I don't really want to watch the Hawks play. Like, they suck. You know what I mean? But that was what was taking place. And now we're potentially looking at that. And the reason I also think that it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
So this is your prediction?
It's going to happen because the way they worded it, they said significantly impacted, right? as long as the game is, if the schedule is significantly impacted, or excuse me, the game are significantly impacted. I give you two scenarios where you got significant impact, right? All right. So we got the Steelers playing whoever we want to have them play late in the year. Steelers are sitting at 13 wins. This team is sitting at 12 wins. They're trying to fight out for who's going to be that 1 seed or that 2 seed. COVID happens. Game can't be played, significantly impacted, right? Cool. Okay. That makes sense, right? You would agree with me, right? Two teams competing for the 1 seed or 2 seed is significant, right? So COVID happens. They can't play. Cool. We'll be fine with that.
Rescheduled to week 18. Is this what's happening?
But no. I'm just saying in general, like that would be a significant impact. So you would have to change the game, and then ultimately they would change the playoff format. And we said that's fine. Now, if I told you it was the Jets and the Washington football team, they're playing in week 16, and the Jets are sitting at 2-13.
They get 2 dubs.
And no, they're sitting at 2-13, and you got the football team sitting at 3-12, and COVID happens, they can't play that game. You think that's a significant impact? I'm just asking. Do you think it's
what on the schedule?
Yeah, because they said if it's significantly impacted, would that game not being played be significant to you?
I don't know. Me as an individual or in general, because you do have to switch the schedule up though.
Is it significant though? Like, do you
for what? It's significant to the NFL schedule, not the playoffs. Though
I'm just asking in general because they didn't say significant for the playoffs. They said just significantly impacted.
That's what I'm saying. It is to the schedule. Yes.
So how is that game significant to the playoffs?
It's not the playoffs.
Okay,
correct.
So you still think it's significant though?
To the schedule, not the playoffs.
I'm just asking why though?
Huh? Because you got to move your schedule around. You got to add another week.
You could essentially cancel that game, right? It wouldn't be that big of a deal. Neither one of those teams would be going to the playoffs. We're talking about
have
a
they
team
ever
with
done
2
that?
wins and a team.
I don't know if they've ever done that.
I don't think
That's what I mean. I don't think they're trying to do that.
But we know this year they are thinking that type of stuff, right? But the reason they say it's significant is who cares about the game being played? Who cares about them making the playoffs? But the significant element is draft position. So now
that's a fair
you can't
point.
even go with the argument because that was the argument yesterday was, well, man, significant impact as long as you're top teams. Well, all right, yeah, we want to see them get those games played. We want the seed and we understand the impact of it. But who cares if it's this bum team over here and that bum team over there?
No, that does matter. That could change a franchise for 15 years.
Absolutely. So now you see why I'm telling you, like, bro, it's gonna happen because we already seen that they even made the announcement. I think it was yesterday that this week alone they've had there's double the most COVID tests that they've had. They're at 56 right now compared to I think the high in the past was 26.
So would they have considered anything up to this point before? Are we going on week 9?
Yeah, we're on week 9 right now. Okay,
I'm getting lost with all these numbers.
No, it's week 10 now.
Okay.
Yeah, we just finished up week 9.
It's confusing sometimes. But anyway, would they have considered anything that happened up to this point significant?
No.
Is it just simply whatever happens where they have to add a week?
The way they've said it right now is from now on.
Okay.
But we all know how the NFL has been operating this year. They will make a change and yeah, you just got to deal with it. So that's why for me, I'm like, they can easily make that argument from a retrospect standpoint that, well, man, that game kind of was impacted. We had to move that a little bit. So, it's significant. Give them the extra playoff teams. So that's why for me, I'm already leaning towards it being that, bro, because that's significant. That's why I said when they said significantly impacted, it's such a broad term that
it is true. It could be any 2 teams.
Yeah.
No matter even if it is the Jets,
right.
It could be any team. Could that impact you being the 10th pick or the 15th pick?
And I can say that's significant. We see just when you're talking about moving up in the draft, what you have to give up to move up one spot, let alone, you talking about when you get these top 5s and top 10s and stuff like that. So when you word it like that, and they've already approved the format in terms of
you can enact this
they've already agreed upon that. So for me, that's why I'm already leaning towards it's gonna happen, man.
That's funny.
The writing's on the wall. It's significantly. I'm like, bro, significantly impact. I'm like, you need to be more specific than that, baby. That's super broad, but smart on their part.
Well, what's interesting too, maybe I should have brought this up in the hot topics thing because there are some people that have said like, yo, no matter if Ben's good to go or not, maybe we should just sit him for injury purposes, let him rest.
Yeah.
We already banked 8 wins. We're looking good. Which
shout out to Coach T, 14 years now, never a losing season.
There
fully
you go.
Locked in, baby.
Which
gotta love it.
I completely disagree with. I want Ben out there. I want us to keep winning games. I want us to get the high seed. But yeah, I mean, how much?
But that was with the mindset that we would have.
Yeah, because I think a bye is important. At the same time, I do think even if the bye is taken away, I think home field would matter a little bit. I'd rather be having teams come through us in Heinz Field as opposed to going on the road. I think that's just
I feel like in a normal year, home field matters because you get the fans there. This year, 5,000.
It's got to help a little bit.
5,000 fans is doing it like that, bro.
Even just the optics of it, seeing your stadium. I would take that though.
Sure. If you say so, I just location isn't mattering like that, especially with that little amount of fans. And then it's not even like teams are even expanding that. We're seeing, I think the Vikings, they had a plan where they were supposed to expand in. Now they're going the opposite way. We're seeing multiple teams take that approach as well. So yeah, I really don't think home field or going on the road is really going to be significant this year compared to normal years. And normal years, without a doubt. And especially too when you're talking about AFC playoffs, like you're not gonna. I mean, just depending on the seeding, obviously, and who you have to match it with. Barring a East Coast to West Coast travel, I really don't think it impacts you that way because you don't have those fans there.
Like, man, I would just rather us be playing the Chiefs at Heinz Field versus Arrowhead. I don't know what percentage of like, I feel better about this being at Heinz versus Arrowhead, but. All right. I mean, you brought up your perspective. I mean, you could be right. Yeah.
I'm like, we've been on the road in Arrowhead when it's hostile, when it's packed, and we still got the job done multiple times. I ain't worried about it, man.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Either way, I want Ben to be playing and try to get the top seed. Thing, I mean, because one, that I guess if that happens, your whole playoff scenario, we just don't know yet. So let's just keep going as if it is in place, man. Let's try to win all of our games. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like always the goal. I mean, in every coach will tell you, as long as they're keeping score, you want to win. These guys are super competitive. So that's not going to be, I don't think the effort element is going to change. I don't think just from a coaching standpoint that part is going to be watered down. When we talk about watering down, I'm talking about when they just simply say that, all right, it's no longer an incentive for us to go undefeated. There's no longer an incentive for us to fight for the 1 or 2 or 3 seed. That's when you'll start seeing them say, all right, I'm not worried about Ben not playing hard. Them just simply saying, Ben, you're only going to play for a quarter. Mason, you take over for the rest of it. That's when we talk about the product being watered down. It's like typically you wouldn't have to even think about that. But if you de-incentivize that top seed or
this would be in the last like 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. This segment is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbooking app. But also, right, because we know sportsbooking isn't allowed everywhere. We got that, okay. But fantasy football, right? Who doesn't love a little fantasy football? And who doesn't love fantasy football with the opportunity to win up to $1 million worth of prizes every week? Who doesn't love that? With DraftKings Fantasy Football app, you are able to do that. You can participate in the fun, man. You can spice up your Sundays, all right? So, download the app, DraftKings Fantasy Football. Make sure you use the promo code Moats so you can receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonuses. And let's have a little fun, man. Let's get an opportunity to get some paper.